ready now to hear the Holy Gospel of our Lord Jesus Christ according to St. Mark. Glory to you, Lord Christ. Jesus and the disciples passed through Galilee. He didn't want anyone to know it, for he was teaching his disciples, saying to them, "The Son of Man is to be betrayed into human hands, and they will kill him. And after 3 days after being killed, he will rise again." But they did not understand what he was saying, and they were afraid to ask. Then they came to Capernaum, and when he was in the house, he asked them, "What were you arguing about on the way?" But they were silent, for on the way they had argued with one another who was the greatest. He sat down, called the 12, and said to them, "Whoever wants to be first must be last of all and servant of all." And then he took a little child and put it among them. And taking the child into his arms, he said to them, "Whoever welcomes one such child in my name welcomes me. And whoever welcomes me welcomes not me, but the one who sent me." That is the gospel of the Lord. Praise to you, Lord Christ. So, little self-disclosure here, not proud of this. I'm not a very good reader, never have been. Wasn't a good student, unless I really cared. I wasn't bad in reading comprehension. I love to read. I'm slow. My comprehension is low, unless I really am engaged. I like a good story. I like devotional literature because I love to read what people have to say about their relationship with God. But when it comes to courses like American history, lost. I mean, lost on me. I was one of those ADD kids who, for me, school was about recess. Now we're talking. And so, my way of learning is just different. I'd rather listen. That's why I love to finish. A lot of woodworkers don't like to finish. Rather get in there with the machines, with the chisels and so forth. But I like the rubbing. I like the contemplative, rubbing and finishing and applying and sanding and all that because I get to listen. I get to listen to preaching, teaching. I'm a big, the great courses guy. I've got CDs and podcasts, and I just listen. I love it. And anymore, I love watching. I love documentaries. I love documentaries. And I'm sure that all of you have probably seen the National Geographic documentary on 9/11, A Day in America. It's fantastic. Begins at 6:30 in the morning, 20 years ago, 9/11. The voice of the air traffic controller losing contact with the plane that was the first plane to hit the World Trade Center. Starts there, winds up 11:30 that night when they pulled the last person out of the rubble. I didn't know this, maybe you did, but after the buildings collapsed, there was a lot of people that got out of the buildings. But once the buildings were collapsed, there were only 16 people that were pulled from the rubble. Anyway, great documentary. And there are a lot of good ones, and they're all fun. Learning stuff, and I don't think there's anything more fun than learning something new, to me. I mean, I just think that's a great thing. And, there are documentaries, and then there are documentaries, and then there's Ken Burns. It's just, unbelievable. So just going backwards in time, most recently, Ernest Hemingway. If you haven't seen this, if you care at all about American literature, it's fantastic. And the one on country music, which I don't like, it's not a genre that I But his documentary, Country Music, was just enlightening. I mean, it was fantastic. And then the Mayo Clinic, the Vietnam War, defying the Nazis, Jackie Robinson, the Roosevelts, that was unbelievable. The address talking about Abraham Lincoln, the national parks, I mean, unbelievable. The Dust Bowl, the 10th inning, his work on baseball, he's a big baseball guy. The war, World War II, Unforgivable Blackness, the story of racism in America. The documentary on Mark Twain, unbelievable. And just to name a few people, Frank Lloyd Wright, Lewis and Clark, Thomas Jefferson, his documentary on the West, The Empire of the Air, all about aviation, unbelievable. The Civil War, I mean, everybody's watched that. I mean, why bother with middle school? Just, get a host of Ken Burns documentaries and you'd be good to go. And, it goes on and on and on. And why do I say all that? And why do I like Ken Burns? Because tonight, airing on PBS, a brand new series on, guess who? Float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. I am the greatest, Muhammad Ali. 4-part documentary series on Muhammad Ali. I am the greatest. An icon, certainly, of American culture, certainly in my lifetime. I mean, the controversy around his conversion to Islam, his resistance to the war in Vietnam, his imprisonment, handing over his crown as a heavyweight champion of the world, denouncing all that, and then getting it back. And, if you've ever, I'm not a boxing fan, I'm not a big boxing guy, but if you've not seen The Thriller in Manila, he and Joe Frazier, I mean, two, massive human beings just pounding each other. I mean, it's one of the greatest heavyweight fights of all time. But I am the greatest. I am the greatest. He said it. He and, Howard Cosell, this was, the stuff of an era. It really was. It's going to be a great documentary. And, of course, he was a great civil rights advocate. I mean, he was one of the first black celebrity people that Americans, really, he was just in your face. Just in your face. I'm here. I'm here, and I'm great. The thing that we remember about Muhammad Ali, saying, I'm the greatest, and, arguably, there's no lack of ego there. But Muhammad Ali was the one who also said that to serve is to pay rent for your room. The rent you pay for your room on earth. I think also that there's the Ali Foundation in his hometown, Louisville, Kentucky. This is its mission statement: to preserve and share the legacy and ideals of Muhammad Ali, to promote respect, hope, and understanding, and to inspire adults and children everywhere to be as great as they can be. And those who know Muhammad Ali or encountered him later in his life know that he was a monument of generosity and self-giving. Yeah. I am the greatest. You can imagine, I mean, we have the disciples, and, a couple of weeks ago, Tyreside and the whole, kind of thing up there. And it said that he's back in the Galilee now, and, his reputation is already pretty clearly established. He's a celebrity. They're seeking him out. And, but he didn't want anybody to know. Don't tell anybody that I'm around because I'm teaching my disciples. And I'm going to talk about it in a minute, but he's a good leader. And he's trying as best he can, and he's doing well to get these people ready to take over. And, it's not an easy job. And I'm thinking a little bit about boot camp. And I know this only because, they call seminary kind of a theological boot camp. And one of the things that they try to do in seminary is demythologize and sort of bring you down to that everything you know is probably wrong. Let's start there. And, when I watch, I was never in the military, but when I watch and think about and understand what happens in boot camp, what they try to do is dismantle you as a human being and then build you back up as a soldier. And it's not all that easy to dismantle you as a human being. And in boot camp, they do all that they can. They don't make it easy. And a matter of fact, they tear you apart, one limb from the other. And that's a little bit about what's going on now with the disciples. Jesus is, when he gave that tongue lashing to Peter, that was no kidding around. I can imagine Peter cowering in the corner for weeks. I'm not going to say a word. Have you ever been dressed down by a professor in the classroom when they really took issue with something bonehead that you said? When the whole class laughed at you and you made your decision, I'm never going to speak up again or ask my question or raise my hand, not me. But we have these passion predictions when Jesus is going to, let the cat out of the bag a little bit. Now here's the way it's going to go, boys and girls. It's not going to be pretty. We're going to Jerusalem. Scribes and Pharisees, kill me. Crucify. It's going to be no fun whatsoever. In 3 days I'll rise again. And in their little minds, and they're looking for glory. Who wouldn't? Who wouldn't? Who wouldn't want to be on top? Who wouldn't want to, hitch their wagon to Jesus and just go, right straight to the clouds? Glory everlasting. People, adoration, seeking, everything they've ever wanted. To be the greatest. To be the greatest. And it's an inclination of the ego. To be somebody. It's one of these needs that we have for survival that can quite easily go awry, and there's no shortage of examples there. And so he's teaching them again, and it's a second passion prediction. Here's the way it's going to go. And so they're on the way. They're in the world. They're on the way, and they're talking and teaching everything. And then they get to a quiet moment in the house. And Jesus said, I overheard a little bit of it. What were you guys talking about on the road out there? And nobody wanted to say anything. Why? They were busted. The last thing we should have been talking about is who's going to be next. Who's going to lead? Who's going to take over? Who is going to be the greatest? I've been around long enough to know that in organizations, when leadership changes, things can go to hell quickly. Yeah, talk about watching TV. I've been watching a series called Reign about Mary Queen of Scots. Oh my good heavens! I thought Trump was bad, but he's like a saint. If you didn't like somebody, you didn't mess around. You just had him killed. Why not? Anybody who speaks out against the king, that was a death knell. And not only that, but regicide was in fashion. If you didn't like the king, just, get a group of people together and kill him. The world is brutal, so nothing has really changed in that respect, but you can see why the aspiration to be great, we'd all be guilty of it. And they're slow, they're slow to pick up on it. Here's the interesting thing. Jesus goes to great lengths to talk about what's going to happen with the scribes and Pharisees and all that kind of stuff. Why didn't he embellish the other end? Why didn't he say, now listen, here's the way it's going to go. They're going to crucify me, which will be bad. It will be bad for sure. But there's going to be a tomb, and they're going to put me in there. But in the night, what's going to happen is some angels are going to come and roll the stone back. The women will be there in the morning, and they'll look in, and they'll notice that the tomb is empty. And they won't understand that really, but that's what. And then the women who will see me, because I'll be in the garden, then the women will come back and they'll tell you that I've risen, and you'll be confused for a while, but it's really true, and that's what's going to happen. He didn't go into that explanation. You notice the killing and the crucifying and rise again. It's like they hardly were given time to hear it, let alone what the ramifications of it might be. And when we think about the passion prediction, we go immediately to the passion, the death, rather than the passion and resurrection. So he's being a good leader. He's being a good leader, and he's got them right where he wants them, which is feeling really, really self-conscious and really, really inadequate and really, really off balance. He's a good teacher. He's a good teacher. He's not at that part of the training where he's trying to build up their confidence. It's just the opposite. And now, as a teacher, as he always does, he'll do something absolutely brilliant that they could never forget. There happens to be a baby. Now, the problem with the baby is easy to sentimentalize. Oh, there's the precious little baby. This is not that. This is not that. This is somebody who has no power. This is somebody who's incredibly needy and 100% dependent and vulnerable. And Jesus wants to draw particular attention to the relationship and welcoming the weak, honoring the dishonorable. It's not what you think, boys and girls. It's not what you think. It's not about being great. It's about being last. That's a big one to swallow. It's a big one to swallow. You know, we have, the challenge here. And, I Googled, what is effective leadership in a time of transition really look like? And this is a piece that's written very briefly by a woman who is a corporate consultant. And her expertise really is, she's brought in when a corporation or an organization is about to lose a charismatic leader. And here's what she says. Good. The author's name, by the way, is Heather Hope. Heather Hope. The crux of leadership in any workplace is that the quality of the leader will affect all who work there. By quality, I don't mean education or skill, but I'm talking about character. The leader's ability to understand people, to know how to support the people that they lead, so those people can in turn attend to their own work. Their ability, I like this, their ability to be steady in a storm. Their ability to do the right thing, not because they defend right or wrong, but because in choosing to do, they do the right thing and they honor people. Their ability to let the light they are shine bright, regardless of the opinion of others. A great leader, even after they depart, will leave behind a foundation that is hard to disrupt. Their dedication will be a footprint that others will walk in, feeling the way that has been left for them to walk. It reminds them of who they are and that their qualities are equally appreciated. The departure of a great leader will no doubt be a point of great change in any organization. But what is perhaps most important are the moments of reflection on those foundations that were laid by the leader, and an appreciation of all that they offer. All of this talks to true legacy, not a legacy about finance or product or even clients, but a legacy about people, whether they be colleagues or clients. What greater legacy could there be than for colleagues to have been inspired to continue the work out of respect for that leader and all that they brought, even after they are gone. Why are we even here in this building, reading from this particular book about this unusual man who lived 2,000 years ago?
Contributions to St. Luke's Episcopal Church help to make the digital ministry and other outreach within the community possible. If it is in your heart to make a donation, St. Luke's secure PayPal link, as well as the church's mailing information, may be found in the description of this video. Thank you.